Welcome to the Positively Portugal Football Report for round 29. My name is Howie. We have a lot of ground to cover today, so we're going to get right into it by talking about the Primeira Liga. We started Friday with Sporting going into Gil Vicente and beating them 4-0. All four goals came in the first half, and honestly, it looked like it could have been 10-0. But Sporting did the smart thing. They knew that they had a game 5 days later, and 4 days later, and they put the foot on the brakes and they played smart. They didn't risk anything, whether it be injury or fatigue, and they did what they had to do. Vitoria with a 1-1 draw against Firenze. I cannot understand Vitoria. Every time they are handed an opportunity, they spit in the face of whoever hands that opportunity to them. And speaking of which, another team that does the exact same thing is Porto, who dropped points again at home to Famalicão, a 2-2 draw there. Braga picked up their first win in the post-Artur Jorge era, beating Estoril 1-0 at Estoril. Rio Ave and Estrela played to a 2-2 draw, as did Portimonense and Casapia. Aruca continues to play well. They beat Boa Vista 2-1. And Aruca's manager is actually going to Braga next season. I want to thank my subscriber David for pointing that out. And Benfica with a 3-0 win over Moreirense. I got to tell you, I am done watching Moreirense play this year. Yes, they are in 6th place, but I think they got there by putting everybody to sleep. And when they play at home, this game was on the road, but when Moreirense plays at home, that stadium that they play in is absolutely hideous with that gigantic wall behind the goal. It looks like a medieval prison. Chaves beat Vizela 1-0, leapfrogging them at the bottom of the table. Not really what anyone expected. And then yesterday in the big makeup game from round 20, Sporting over Famalicão 1-0. So Sporting is now on top by 7 points. And really, it's an unbreakable lead. There's only 5 league games left, and they're not going to blow a 7-point lead at this point. So they did what they had to do. You know, the team of the week, it's going to be Sporting. 2 road victories. Yes, the teams that they're playing are not impressive, especially Gil Vicente, who is just in a complete free fall with 4 consecutive losses and have gone winless in 7 straight games. But there were no nerves. There was no choke job. Sporting went out there and they were professional about it. They did what they had to do. The week's biggest loser is going to be Vizela. They were fighting tooth and nail to get themselves out of the relegation zone, and they were picking up points here and there, but it all came crashing down on them at home, no less, against Chaves. And now Vizela finds themselves at the bottom of the table. So the interesting things to watch now are going to be 3rd, 4th, and 5th place, because Braga has caught Porto. They are dead even on points. Porto still has the tiebreaker because of goal differential, and Vitoria is right behind them, but Vitoria just refuses to take advantage of any opportunity that they're given. Now, Porto and Vitoria are going to play later today in the second leg of their Taça semifinal. We can't wait for this game. I mean, this video had to come out. We do have a lot to talk about today. And, to be honest, the way that Porto and Vitoria are playing, look, they're not worth waiting another day for. So whoever wins that, it kind of looks like it might be a sacrificial lamb for Sporting, who's on track to win the domestic double. And we also have to talk a little bit about Benfica. Last week they beat Marseille at home 2-1. Really, it should have been 2-0, but Marseille gave themselves a fighting chance for the game tomorrow at the Velodrome, and that's, unfortunately another one we can't wait for. We'll cover this in next week's football video. But there's been chatter among people that Benfica is not having a good season. They're not going to win the league. They're obviously eliminated from the Taça. But, I'm here to tell you that's a bunch of nonsense. I think Benfica, and keep in mind, I don't like Benfica. I'm not a Benfica fan, never have been, never will be. But I think they're a hell of a team this season. There's never any shame in losing to your rival. Yes, I get that they lost 5-0 to Porto, but those things happen. You got to keep in mind, Benfica took quite a bit from Porto this season. They took the Supertaça at the start. They won the first league match between them. Porto was hell-bent on doing what they did to Benfica, and look, they did it. I can't explain Porto domestically the rest of the way, but, they did what they had to do. They beat their rival. What's going on at Benfica is really nothing. Benfica is Benfica. The fact that they're not winning anything domestically this season, it's not about them. This is really about Sporting. In every league, every once in a while, a special team comes along. And this year's Sporting team, love them or hate them, they are very special. And Benfica could win the Europa League. They have a great chance to win it. I think they're going to knock off Marseille. I think they're better than Marseille. And they should be in the semifinal at least. If you get to the semifinal, well, you get to the final, and then you can win the final. Now, if Benfica wins the Europa League, are you really going to sit here and say that they're having a bad season? I don't believe they've had a bad season at all. To me, the biggest regret that they would have would be the opening day loss where they lost, they gave up 2 goals in the final minutes at Boa Vista. To me, that was the worst thing that happened to them, and that was the very first game of this season. So to sit here and knock Benfica, look, give Sporting credit where credit is due. This team put together a very special season, and you know what? The truth is, you're really not going to have to deal with Sporting for much longer. I believe this team is going to get broken up. Victor Gyökeres is probably going to be sold for big money to somewhere. I know he's been linked with Arsenal. Ruben Amorim, their manager, has been linked with Liverpool. And whether he goes to Liverpool or somewhere else, you got to think that he's going to take a few of his players with him. So I don't think that this Sporting team is going to be kept together. And if you look at what's going on at Porto with, I guess their elections coming up and just a horrible season domestically, there's going to be change in Porto. There's a lot of instability there. And for the first time in a long time, they're not going to be in the Champions League at all. They don't have that money coming in. And that's why I think fans of every team, even if you hate Benfica, you should be cheering for Benfica to win the Europa League. There's now only 2 Champions League spots for Portugal. And if a Portuguese team, no matter who it is, can win a European trophy, maybe that shows the powers that be that they got it wrong. And I think they got it wrong. There's a lot of things to not like about Portuguese football, but there's also a ton of things to like about it. And I think this is wrong. I think Portugal should have 3 Champions League spots. And if Benfica winning the Europa League can help lead to that, then let's go Benfica. Do it. So I just want to throw that out there. And you know what else? You have the instability of Porto and Sporting coming up. Braga, I think, has an opportunity to really break through with having Arouca as manager. Arouca's been really good the last 2 seasons. And Braga's had some coaching issues. We're not going to talk about Artur Jorge again, but I think Braga really has a chance to become the second-place team in Portugal next season. Maybe even do the unthinkable. But I also believe that Benfica is now in the position to return to complete dominance domestically. I really think that this is going to be the team that wins a lot of leagues and Taças going forward, at least for maybe the next 4 or 5 years. I think the future is very bright for Benfica. I think it's a lot brighter than it is for either Sporting or Porto. So, again, let's not say that Benfica's having a bad season. They're not. I think what you're seeing here is transition. And just watch going forward. Now, I hope I'm wrong, because I think if Sporting gets broken up, it's not good for Portuguese football. We want to talk about Victor Gyökeres, who has more than 50 goal contributions in his first year at Sporting. Well, he hasn't exactly done that elsewhere, but before he got there. So I know Sporting wants 100 million euros for him. I can't see him getting sold for that amount. So then, does Sporting take a chance and say, well, we'll hold on to him for another season. Let's see if he can do it again. And if he does it again, then obviously they're going to get more than 100 million euros for him. But something to think of is that it's been documented that Gyökeres loves Sporting. He loves the city of Lisbon. And how can he not? To me, it's the best city in the world. And Ruben Amorim, well, this is going to be his second league title with Sporting. I can't see him staying. I think somebody's going to give him a hell of a contract. But if he stays, maybe Sporting can be kept together, but I think that's a pipe dream. I wouldn't look for that to happen. I really think Benfica is going to completely take over Portuguese football again in the next few years. And that's really all I have for you today. We're going to have a non-football video coming out soon, and of course we're going to talk about the second leg of the semifinal of the Taça between Porto and Vitória. We're going to talk about Thursday's quarterfinal against Marseille, and we'll talk about round 30 of the Primeira Liga. So, as always, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.